back to another episode of Popcorn Heroes. With me, as always, we have Armando.
What up?
And today we're reviewing Ghost of Tsushima. Tsushima, yeah.
Tsushima.
So, like always, we're gonna give our spoiler-free review. We're gonna give our impressions of it, and then we're gonna jump into our spoilers. But first, we should always begin with the premise. And Armando, take it away. The premise of Ghost of Tsushima.
All right. It is the year of our Lord, 1659. Oh, is it? It's 59. I gotta check the year first, man. I'm sorry. Shit, I fucked it up. It's 16 something. 1274. Jesus, even further back. Anyways, the Mongolian army is invading a small island, or a Japanese island, whatever you want to call it, called Tsushima. And then the samurai go in there, try to take them out at the beginning, but they get overwhelmed. All the samurai die except the spirit of one. And then there's no spirit. Just one guy survives. And it's just his journey to free the island of Tsushima. That's it.
That was good. That's why we have Pedro do our premises. So Armando, what do you think? 1 out of 5.
I give it 4 out of 5, buddy.
Nice.
This game is great, dude. It's a fun game. It's literally a game. You know how if you think about Last of Us, or even Last of Us 2 that we played right before this one, it's a video game, but it's more on the realistic side. And this one just feels straight up like a video game, and I think that makes it so much fun. There's no pointless animations. There's no the action is very kinetic. You moving from your stances. You're very active in the battle. You're not just mashing buttons. And there's just always so much things to do. The island is beautiful. Like, the game is beautiful looking. Everything about it, of course the horses. For me, the horses don't look good, and I don't think anyone can touch Red Dead Redemption's horses though. Like Red Dead Redemption 2, the horses, the way they moved, they were amazing. Like, this game can't touch that. But overall, the game is very beautiful. The characters, I felt, are good enough. Some of them I wasn't really feeling, but overall, like, the story is very straightforward. You don't have to get so into it, and I think everything just leads you along. I like how you skill up. It's like they give you enough resources that you don't feel like you're grinding. And like, you could just go about your business and you could collect stuff and you end up getting enough to level up, and this game doesn't feel like a grind fest, and I think that is really, like, important about this game. But yeah, I think overall it's a great game, man, and the way you change your look and all these pieces you have, I think it's a very fascinating game, dude, and it's definitely up there, man, for this generation for me. I really enjoyed it. And I'm still trying to work on that platinum. I'm like one thing short away to platinuming it.
Nice.
And I never felt bored doing it either. So I think it's pretty good. It's a fun game. Highly recommend it.
Yeah. So I was thinking about a score before we started, and I'm sitting around 4.5, man. Definitely really love this game. It's just really just a fun game. The combat use, like you said, is very fluid and kinetic. I think the story, while it is like generic and kind of like formulaic, there is a few beats that I was like, damn, you know what, this got me. Like, oh shit, this didn't see this coming, or I didn't think it was gonna go this way. And for me, honestly, I saw a very clear good comparison to this game and another like intellectual property in terms of like of fiction. And so once I compared it to that, I was like, yo, this game is like the best of this thing. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give away the story, but once I put my headspace into like comparing it to something else, I was like, this is just so great, and I was in love with the game. I think it happened towards the second act. Something happens in the second act, and I'm like, this is very similar to this other thing. And then once I got into that headspace, I was just like, oh shit, this is literally this, but with samurais. And this game is so far is my game of the year for 2019. And that's
2020.
2020. Sorry, what the fuck is 2019? What the fuck is 2020 really? But I think it's because I think I compared it the same to like 2018 or no 2017 or 18 when Spider-Man came out and God of War came out. God of War to me was like the objectively the better game, where I was like, this is game of the year. But Spider-Man was my game of the year because of how much fun I had. And then Ghost is like that for me. Like, it's just a video game for video game's sake. And it's really fun, and I just have a great time in the world. I've taken so many photos that I haven't even uploaded. I just have them sitting in my like PS4. And I think because I was just so enthralled into the game and the story, it's what pushes it up there. Obviously, in this year we have, Last of Us 2, and obviously Cyberpunk is another game that's going to be in the conversation. Animal Crossing, I'm sure, is in the conversation. Even Fall Guys, I'm sure, is in the conversation for game of the year. Like, there's so many good games this year, but for me so far, it has been it's Ghost. Yeah, I would say objectively though, I would say Last of Us, but that's a different conversation for a different day.
Yeah.
But yeah, just really enjoyed it. Just love the characters, love where the story went. Overall great game.
Yeah, for sure. Highly agree with that. But yeah, I think people should play it, especially if you have a PlayStation. Just how beautiful it is, and like just having Japanese culture. I don't think games out there kind of go into Japanese culture like this game did, unless you're like a Japanese game essentially. But it's I think this is one of the first like samurai games I've played, and because I've never played the old ones, like what's the name of that crap? Those huge samurai games. I don't remember right now. But this game is so fun that I think people should play it, and they should like get it, and I'm pretty sure they'll enjoy it. It's a great game. It's up there.
Yeah, it's definitely up there for one of the best PS4 games for sure. Definitely in the top 5 I could think of. But yeah, overall I recommend it as well. If you guys have a PS4, pick it up. They just announced a few weeks ago or last week that a multiplayer component is coming to the game for free. So if you bought the game,
it's amazing.
You're gonna get a multiplayer component of the game, and it's gonna be co-op. And yeah, you're gonna be playing as 4 samurai warriors. But let's just jump into
this. Which is awesome.
Yeah, which is fucking super great. I'm glad that we bought it, and it was
so much value, dude. So much value for $60.
Yeah, and it came out of nowhere too, because we already beat the game, and I think it's worth $50 just by its story alone. But now we're getting this added component to it, so I'm pretty excited to see how that turns out.
Yeah, for sure. And even the theme of this game, like the theme, the PS4 theme is amazing. Like it's so good. And the mask, like the people are making like Etsy mask of the ghosts. I'm just like, damn, I really want one of these now. It's so good. Oh man, it's so great.
Yeah, it's definitely. I'm glad that we don't, like you said, we don't really get that much games rooted in Japanese culture, especially like a historical game. Even though there's obviously some historical inaccuracies in terms of like when the weapons came out and stuff like that, but it's still something that has been praised by Japanese people, and I think when it comes to that kind of,
it's one of the highest selling PS4 games in Japan.
Yeah, and
So-
I think when it comes to that kind of stuff, it's just like, especially for a company like Sucker Punch rooted in Seattle, you know, primarily, you know, Americans of different races, of different cultures, to make a samurai game and not butcher the historical meaning behind it, or, you know, be very sensitive with that culture, and for them to embrace it, that says a lot, you know. So I think that's just, it's just great. I really commend Sucker Punch for what they've done. So overall, yeah, it's just a overall great game. But let's jump into the spoilers. So if you haven't played this game yet, you know, pause it, come back, spend your week or two. It took us a while, but we have full-time jobs, and
It's like a month.
yeah, it took us
a month to beat it.
Yeah, it took us a while to beat it, but come back when you beat the game.
That's because we took our time. Like, we didn't rush it.
Yeah, that's true.
And I did a lot of exploring. I did all the side stuff before I even got back to the story.
Yeah.
I was really exploring this game.
I gotta admit, I rushed it towards the end because I knew you were done already. But I still have maybe a few side missions, and that's it. So I'm not that far off from where you're at. But yeah, let's just jump into it. Cool. Spoilers ahead if you haven't played the game, and if you have, welcome to the spoilers. So the comparison I have for this game, I compared it to Star Wars, and I believe I told you we had a discussion about it. So in the second act, where he's just Lord Shimura's like, oh, you can't be a ghost, you can't go down this way, we have to have honor, and we can't go down this ruthless way, we're just like them, you know, like the Mongols. And Jin's just like, oh, I need to become this to save my people. It was such a parallel to me of Obi-Wan and Anakin, and Obi-Wan's just like, yo, you can't go down this route, and Anakin's like, nah, I gotta go this route because I have to be bad so I can save Padme. And I'm like, oh shit, this is fucking Star Wars.
Yeah.
And once that clicked in my head, I couldn't unsee Star Wars. So even
Star Wars itself was very influenced by those old movies, those old samurai movies. I forget the name of it.
The Shogun movies.
Yeah, those Shogun movies. So, in a sense, those parallels makes complete sense because this game is heavily influenced by those old samurai games.
Of course,
those old samurai movies.
Of course, when you think about it in terms of samurai having honor, same thing, Jedis, the light side, all that stuff. The robes, it's definitely rooted in Japanese culture and religion and stuff like that. Of course, I guess for me as obviously an American guy, you know, who does it.
The Kurosawa.
Kurosawa
movies.
Kurosawa.
That's the name of it.
So I guess for me as someone who doesn't really watch those movies nor take in that culture, that was my comparison. Even though obviously
for sure.
It's kind of like us comparing Tomb Raider to Uncharted, and it's just Uncharted
was first. Tomb Raider was first.
Exactly. So it's just but if you don't know any better, you're like, oh well, Nathan Drake is a lot like Lara Croft. And you're like, yeah, bitch, because they just copied Lara Croft. But so I'm that same way where, you know, my only reference is Star Wars because I didn't watch those Japanese movies nor take in that culture.
Movies.
Yeah. So once I got that in my head, I was like, oh shit, this is fucking Star Wars. They're he has to be bad, and his uncle doesn't like it. And I thought at the end his uncle was gonna be like, yo, you know what? You saved us. You fucked up, but we good. We good. I thought that was gonna happen.
I thought so too. Yeah, it's funny you say that because thinking throughout this game when I was playing it, I was thinking about samurai culture in general, how they're very honor bound and how very we can't move away from our ways essentially, and how the Khan was saying I know what these people are gonna do. They're predictable because they have such a single-minded way of being that I know exactly what they're gonna do, and I could take him out just by them being so honor bound And I'm just like, damn, man, maybe that's why the samurai are extinct, because they were so honor bound. They never moved with the time. They never learned tactics in order to evolve and to, you know, maintain that power. And if it wasn't for Jin, they would have been extinct. They would all died.
Right.
And even in that battle where Jin poisons everybody, if it wasn't for Jin doing that, they would have gotten wiped out. So it's just crazy how them being so honor bound and single minded in their tactics was literally their extinction.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree 100%. It's one of those things where, you know, evolve or die in a way, and they just didn't want to see that. And like, when I was thinking, I was like, okay, his uncle was gonna forgive him, but then once they had in the plot line of like, okay, well, you poison the Mongols, now they know how to use poison, and now that information could have now that information has spread to all of Tsushima, and you know, like, that's not good, because now they can use that on the mainland of Japan. And who knows if that information spreaded to Japan, you know, like, who knows if a ship left to the mainland and said, hey, we found this, you know, that could be something in Tsushima too, that maybe like the Mongols are using poison in Japan because of Jin's like use of it. So I understood it in that sense of like, oh shit, you know, like, while you saved us, you might have damned us as well, and so like, you're not allowed to like live, like, this is your punishment for probably the repercussions of like of our people.
Yeah,
but I just didn't think
and of course is the shogun's fear also, because the shogun's who ordered Shimura to kill Jin. So it was funny because I was listening to the Colin spoiler cast for this, right? And I had to stop listening to it because I didn't want to, you know, muddy my own mind. But one of the questions that was, you know, someone said is like, the shogun itself was afraid of Jin, because Jin showed the people how to rebel against the samurai, the samurai and the shogun itself, you know. And by doing that, the shogun is afraid of a rebellion against his authority in Japan, essentially. So because if the people follow Jin and how he rebelled against the authority of his uncle, they could easily do that throughout Japan and overthrow the shoguns, you know?
Yeah, fuck up the dynasty.
Yeah, essentially. And you know, that's a fear that the shogun also created. I'm just like, I didn't really think about that, you know. I thought about, the shogun was just being a dick because it's all about honor and shit. But no, it's the shogun being like, oh, like, this guy is teaching people how to rebel, and we can't not allow that to happen. He needs to get punished. We need to kill him, right? Because people cannot revolt against us, right? And I mean, like, that's an interesting, you know, idea that was brought up. It was like, yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, I forgot which part of the game it was, but I remember hearing, I think the uncle and Jin were talking about, like, you know, like, when they were like in calmer times, and they were saying, like, I think there was like a village that didn't like, you know, Lord Shimura and the uncle, and it was like, yeah, they just didn't like us, and it was because obviously, like, you have the power, you oppress people, you just don't know that because you're in the light of privilege, so you don't know how you are the oppressor. And in a way, I listened to a spoiler cast with the director of the game, and nice. Yeah, in a way, he was saying how, like, you know, the Khan tells, like, multiple times, tells them, like, yo, lay down your sword, I'm gonna whoop your ass anyway, like, no one needs to die, and that's it. Like, I don't want to kill y'all anymore, I'm tired of it, like, just surrender, and you can just become part of the Mongol, like, you know, the empire. And they're like, nah. And it was just one of those things where, even in that sense, you kind of see how like, you know, I understand in a way of like, yo, these people are invading you, they're invaders and stuff like that, but in a way like you don't want to relinquish your power either, and by not doing so, like, you're costing a lot of lives.
Yeah.
You know, so like, I mean, I get it. This is like, you know, especially like in the kind of, I mean, this is an historical event, but still like in terms of like fiction of like, these are the bad guys. I know you have to, you know, fight the bad guys to the end, but when you look at it in a logical sense, like, hey, like, your people are dying like in a rapid rate, like, what do you do?
It's funny because the if you know about the Mongol Empire took over the majority of Asia and the Middle East and all that shit. Like the Mongol Empire was massive, and what they essentially did was they'll go in, take it over, and then just leave, and be like, "Oh, you're part of us now." And you know, of course, they would leave somebody there, but the culture itself would stay the same, and they'll just kind of merge the Mongolian culture with the existing culture. So if the Mongols would have taken over Japan, it would have been Japan with some Chinese influences. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's what the Mongol Empire essentially did when they were taking over lands. Like, they like, I don't care what your religion is, I don't care what you do, I don't care what your customs are, you just need to bow down to me. And as long as you bow down to me, you can do whatever the fuck you want. You know, that's how they rolled. That's how they did their conquering, you know. They were just brutal motherfuckers when they did it. Like, they were crazy. So you know, and they're a massive army. You know, all these lands they've conquered, they just kept, you know, adding to the masses essentially. So it's funny, you know, when you mention that, like, you just needed to bow down, and you could have kept your way of life. Just you need to follow the Mongolian rules or whatever, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it you know, when you see it in that way, you're like, the Khan isn't that bad. Like, he just wanted to, you know, he's just, you know,
well, he's the Khan's cousin. You know, he's a Khan, but he's, you know, he's the cousin of the when you look Kublai Khan or whatever it was, you know. Yeah,
so you look at it like that, you're like, he isn't so bad. He just wants to, like, you know, claim his territory and walk away. And so so like it's just one of those things where you just realize that, like, the samurai and samurai way as well might not always be the right way, and I think Jin shows us that. And even like the gameplay, like the gameplay of being a ghost and the story, the game is designed in a way that you can't not be, like, you have to eventually give in to your ghost powers, because there are so many enemies.
The game forces you.
Yeah, the game forces you, and there are so many, and it's a weird thing where, cause there's so many enemies, and you have so much weapons and tricks up your sleeve as a ghost, that being a samurai just isn't the way to go for it, where you have literally like territories for people, and you're like, yo, y'all want to fight, and 20 people are coming at you. That isn't
I did that all the time.
But right, but
at certain points, by the end game, I was OP. Before I left the second island, I had maxed out everything already. So I'm just like, I would just go in there and start smashing people, and, you know, doing everything, and I'll do the standoffs, and, you know, I'll sometimes get them, and since I was wearing the Sakai armor, I get up to 6 standoffs at one time. So as long as you get the first one, that's it. You get all of them in 6, and you fight the rest, and that's it. You're done. You know, it was fairly simple at towards, you know, the end game, and the biggest complaint we have to this game, the storm, which is consistently going on if you're using ghost stuff, and that is the most frustrating part of this game. It's always there. You just, I didn't know, like, I didn't know using the kunai was like, in my head, it's a ghost weapon. You know, if you see it in the game, a ghost weapon, but it didn't register in my head that it was a ghost weapon. And I use it a lot with the dogs, because, you know, the dogs were annoying, so you just do that, and dogs die. So I kept, whenever dogs were around, I did that, and I'm like, damn man, why is it always storming? It's so annoying. I'm doing everything legit. I'm doing, like, I'm not using none of the ghost stuff. And halfway through the game, I realized that the kunai was a ghost weapon. I'm just like, great, dude. No wonder it's storming all the time, because I keep using the kunai. So I had to stop using that and just being straight up all the time in order to stop hearing the storms consistently happening. I think towards the around end game, the storms are not there that often. So I was just going ham using all my stuff at that point.
Yeah,
because you didn't really hear it that much.
I think that is probably the most annoying part of the game, and I think it's also annoying because we know as players why it occurs. Because they release that information saying like, oh, once you become more ghosts, the storms appear and stuff like that. It's just like, all right, this whole time I thought Tsushima was like going through like its hurricane season, and it's always like thundering or some shit. Like
it's all dark and cloudy because of the Mongolians being here.
Yeah, I didn't think it was a symbolism of like the way you're playing, but then once that was told, it was really annoying because it's like, so wait, you forced me to play as a ghost, and now that I'm playing as the ghost, you put this annoying ass same audio loop of a storm in the background.
It feels like you're getting punished.
Yeah, I think that's something that should be turned off, especially as like this game is so photogenic and it's such a stunning game that like the storms mute the colors a little bit. It does just a little bit.
It makes it darker for you to continue using your ghost abilities.
Right. So since it mutes the colors a little bit, like sometimes, yeah. And so one of the things that was annoying about it is that the storms just keep happening, and the game forces you to play as a ghost. So it's just like, why? Like, you're punishing me for doing something that inevitably I have to do to play the game. So it's just really annoying.
Yeah, that was probably the most annoying feature of the game. That bothered me the most out of anything in the game. Was that?
What do you think about like a lot of the game, especially like when we talk about like the story of the game, a lot of it seems to be like what happens when you go against like tradition and like what is like set up. But a lot of the side quests, especially like the main, like the companion side quests, I feel like they have a lot to do with like revenge and seeking.
Well, they all have a theme, essentially. I feel Lady Masako is revenge. I think Sensei Ishikawa is like tradition and fear, I think. And then the priest, I feel his missions were about like preserving the past or letting go of the past. I think is one of the two I find from him. His I can't really pinpoint, but it's something around there.
Yeah.
Or just accepting who you are, maybe. I'm not sure.
And what about Yuna?
Yuna, I think, is redemption. I think Yuna's story is about redemption, because when you meet her, she's a thief, and she's what do they call it? A scoundrel, whatever they call it in the game. And she ends up being your biggest ally, and all the honor people, all the samurai are like, oh, why are you rolling with this girl? She's a thief. You shouldn't be hanging out with these type of people. And Jin always defended her, like, oh, she saved my life and she's helping me save the island. She's doing more than a lot of people out here. So I think her story is about redemption, about changing your story, changing who you are, and because from her you learn how to change yourself and realize that the samurai code, while it's good, at the same time it's a terrible thing. it's too single-minded. It's too narrow of a way to live, because you just live about this, but you don't see everything around you. And he learns that because of her. So I feel that's where these stories all teach him something, while at the same time he changes them.
Yeah, I mean, definitely there's so much parallels to like his journey and the side companion's journey as well. Like you said, like Lady Yuna being the fact that like, yeah, you have to accept the new thing about you, embrace the new, like your new title, your new way of being. I think Yuna helps him in that way. I feel like Lady Masako, with like the revenge plot of like getting her sister and attacking her sister, I think at the end it was kind of like, it's very similar to when him and his uncle had a fight. It's kind of like, okay, you might have like, we might have some beef here, but you're family at the end of the day, and like I'm not going to like, hurt you or like come, like that. Nothing's gonna change the fact that you're family. I think that's very telling in that storyline.
Did you finish your storyline?
Yeah, she kills her sister, right?
Yeah, she kills her sister.
Yeah,
what are you talking about? There's no forgiveness there.
She kills her because, but she does kind of like, oh, because she does, no, she gives her the knife. Like, I'm not gonna kill you. Like, it's gonna kill, like,
Yeah, like you do the samurai killing. Just you kill yourself. But it was like, I'm not gonna do it. You better do it.
Yeah, it was. Oh yeah.
Or else someone else is gonna do it.
It was more but like fuck you. Yeah, it was more like a fuck you story.
But you're right in the sense of like, your family, and we could have worked this out, but you're full of hate, and you're full of resentment, and you're full of all these things. And when you think about that story, Lady Masako kind of fucked her over too. So no wonder she was full of hate. You put me into a life that I never wanted. Like, I wanted your life, and essentially in her eyes, she feels like she stole her life. Yeah. And then you put me in this terrible one. So it was just a very hateful thing. That it's funny because, did you finish the Ishikawa one?
Yeah, with his apprentice leaving, and he's allowing her to leave.
So he learns forgiveness, something that I think Lady Masako kind of learns too at the end of her story. Like, she forgives and learns how to live and let go of her resentment, her anger, her hate, and all that stuff. And I think Ishikawa did the same thing. He let go of his anger, his hate, and he realized that him being so focused on the samurai code alienated everyone in his life. And he didn't live a life. He didn't have anything. At the end, he tells him, like, hey, I've been alone my entire life. Like, don't do the same thing I've done. So it's another lesson that Jin learns there. Just like, yeah, as much as good as the samurai way of being is, the code kind of isolates you from the world, and you can't live like that.
Yeah, I mean, and you also see her. That's why I think his apprentice gives up the code, kind of like, yeah, no, this life isn't for me. Like, I'm not gonna go the way of the bow. Like, I see what it did to you. I'm not gonna follow that route. I think that, to me, was the best story in terms of companions. I think I really enjoyed that one.
And I think that's another good thing about this game, is that those side quests don't feel like side quests. They have their own story. I loved how they tell you how long the story is, how many missions you have to go through to finish the story, and it's its own little thing. And in other games, side quests are literally side quests. Like, they're fetch quests. They're all these pointless things that you're doing just to grind up, And what I like about this game is that the side stories were actual stories. They were telling you something, and they had a beginning and end. And I think I really enjoyed about this game. It's a lot of the other games don't do that. They just make you do stuff just to do it, And this game was very all three stories, all four stories, because you also do Yuna's story. They all had something to do with what you're doing also, but they're just so self-contained and they're side quests that are stories. Like they could have been, wrapped up into the main game, and you wouldn't have thought second of it.
Yeah.
I just love how they kind of did it apart, and it actually said it was a story. I keep repeating that, but it's like the side quests was a story. They were a thing.
It reminds me. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. I was done.
It reminds me a lot of Mass Effect and the companion mission on Mass Effect. I mean, on Mass Effect, they had a little bit of a bigger emphasis because if you did your companion mission, that means your companion might survive. They gain trust. They might survive the last final mission, but each companion in Mass Effect had their own like story arc. So it kind of reminded me of that. At least like everyone has their own story arc. Everyone has their story to tell. So yeah, I agree. Like it's just, even what I found interesting was there's a lot of stories of like mystical tales and a lot of side quests on like there's beasts in the forest, and there are children are like attacking, and like monster children and stuff like that. And like obviously they're like old Japanese like folkloric tales. And so what's really cool about it is that I always was waiting for a like it to come true, like a monster to pop out of nowhere, or a kid to be like a goblin or something, but it never really happened. It was just part of the game. It was just like the narrative was actually just a regular narrative, regular story. So I really enjoyed that. I was always waiting for something different, and I think now that they announced the 4-player multiplayer game that's part of the game, I think we learned that yeah, like these mystical stories and these folklore tales are going to be part of the multiplayer game, and that's why it's not part of the single player game. But I was always waiting for one of those like side quests
to actually be real.
Yeah, like, and I was super into it. I was always waiting for something to come out of it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you mentioned that because it leads perfectly, like you said, into the multiplayer. So now these stories could probably potentially be actual bosses you fight now, or the waves of whatever it is that's happening, because there's gonna be like raids, and there's gonna be what's that when they keep coming at you, the waves,
horde mode.
So they're gonna have that. They're gonna have those two type of things, and I feel like the raids are gonna be that. You have to fight two people and then fight the boss, and it's that mystical being or mystical creature, and you have to do all these crazy things. I think that's what the game is going to be about. I
mean, I think they said there's going to be 4 different samurais, and I think obviously the 4 different samurais are going to be the samurais that you hear the legends of. So so
it's going to be the samurai, the ronin, the ronin, there's a samurai, ronin, or the other ones, the assassin, and there's one more, I forgot the name of it. But yeah, and they could probably be the ones from those. But yeah, go ahead, man. I'm sorry, cut you off there.
No, it's fine. Yeah, so I'm excited to see how that all plays out. For multiplayer wise, I think it's gonna be super fun, super great. One of the characters I forgot to bring up that I really liked, that I thought like it added a level of like oh, I'm just you, just for the different side of the coin, is like Rizzo. Rizzo is his childhood best friend, who basically like the Khan kind of like pretty much like strong
business him to be part of it.
Yeah, strong arms him basically to be part of like the Mongolian regime.
Yeah, so here are the samurais. I'm sorry, Rolando. It's gonna be samurai, hunter, ronin, and assassin.
Okay, cool.
Ronin or Ronin, whatever you want to call it.
Ronin. No, Ronin. Yeah, so I thought that part of the story was really cool. And like you have to basically fight your childhood best friend, and like you realize how like they're like that Jin was always gonna be fine because he was like part of like royalty.
Yeah.
But like Rizzo, like they had like a duel obviously, and then like Jin embarrassed him, and like Rizzo couldn't be a samurai. So that was his only chance. So he had to join the Ronins. And I just thought that was so cool. Like, yo, like this one thing that you thought we did as kids, that's like for you it was like just like a regular like day, like ruined my whole life.
Yeah.
And I just enjoyed like that battle at the end where like Jin is like, I don't want to do this, but I gotta do this anyway, and like that. And I love how at the end like there are Ronin, the Ronins are everywhere, like attacking you, fighting you, and like they play so different than the Mongols.
Yeah. Yeah, they're faster.
Yeah, they're definitely a lot faster. And I love every setting. Now let's talk about the gameplay a little bit. Like one of the best gameplay moments to me were when you're fighting Lady Masako. Like she attacks you.
Oh yeah, from the trailer.
Yeah,
the whole scene was from the trailer.
Oh, I didn't watch the trailer.
Yeah, that was that like one of the set pieces from the trailer that you're walking up and you fight this person like, oh, I don't want to do this. We shouldn't be fighting each other. We should be fighting the invaders or whatever. And then it cuts off there. So now you get actually play off the match. But I don't know if they actually is a lady or they put a guy there. I don't know if they pulled the Last of Us type of thing where they kind of faked you out with their trailers.
Oh, okay.
But that scene was in the game. Was in the trailer.
Okay, I didn't see that in the trailer. But I just love that part where you're at the fighting and then like you see the bow and arrows come, like the fire arrows come and land like where you're fighting. I'm like, oh shit, this is so fucking cool. Yeah, man, the game is just so fucking stunning and the gameplay is so kinetic and so much fun. Like, yeah, definitely just great.
The game had a lot of set pieces that were really cool. What I would have wished is that when you're doing those big war pieces that you were doing fighting the Mongolians, I wish there were more Mongolians. Like I wish there was a feeling of these guys are overwhelming. I was able to just run and slice everybody and get up to the top and that's it. I wish there was just more of an overwhelming force that you had to kind of deal with when you were taking back Tsushima, when you were doing the last end game when you were trying to take out the boats. I wish there was just I wish it felt overwhelming, and it didn't. But those pieces were pretty fun when you're charging and you're fighting with people, and I thought that was all pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. I think I think honestly for the gameplay, I think it maybe would have, depending on how they structured it, but there was like a lot of Mongolians. I think it might have felt like too cheap. Kind of like sometimes like depending, but that's why the gameplay, like there's enough, at least in my opinion, enough like enemy variety and like different types that like you have to switch up your stance, you gotta change how you play. It kind of feels like, I think like if they added too much enemies, then the gameplay would have been a bit more easier, and then that's when you really get into like that, like I'm not a samurai, so there's a lightsaber and I can just cut through all of y'all.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so I think
did you ever have problems with how the camera never locked on enemies?
I did at first, and a few times the camera gets a bit wonky. What I did was a trick that I saw on IGN was like to give you a second to like breathe. You like pull up the menu, the short menu to switch items. So you pull up the thing to switch items, and then that freezes everything. So once that freezes everything, you kind of have like a moment to decide like where you want to go, where you want to hit, what do you want to do. So that's what I did, like to like combat like different things. I would like, okay, let me freeze time right quick a little bit to like get my bearings and see what's happening.
Yeah, I never did that. What I always did, I was just roll away. and try to get them on one-on-ones. I never felt overwhelmed by the camera or anything like that. I was able to, when I was cornered or when I was really hitting the wrong person, I would just roll away and center myself again and fight that way. I never felt like the camera fucked me over. When I was doing battles.
Yeah, it seems to be a complaint a lot of people have, but I guess like the director of the game kind of said like the reason why it's not there is because like when you're fighting, like especially different enemies and they're coming at you at the same time, it's not like you're hitting all the enemies the same. Like you have to switch your stance. You have to like dodge and block and stuff like that. So because of that, like if you're locked on to a shield guy and then you're only focusing on shield and like a sword guy hits you, like it might not give you enough time to switch over and then hit that guy. So it's like it's kinetic in the way that way you can do that dance, that sword dance of like switching your stances and like doing your dodges and stuff like that for the enemy that you want to do it with. But if you're locked on to one enemy, it doesn't give you the opportunity to like switch things up at the fly. You have to probably lock on. It adds one extra step to the combat of locking on to somebody else, then switching your stance, then so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's true.
And the game kind of does like an auto lock on of like whoever's attacking you or whoever you're near. So
that's true. Whoever you hit, that you tend to stick to that person.
Right.
Yeah, I never had an issue with that. Did you like the HUD-less game? The way it had no HUD, the wind guided you everywhere. Did you like it or did you not like it?
I loved it. So this game reminded me also a lot of like Breath of the Wild. Obviously, they took some pointers from that game, and did a lot of Breath of the Wild things like they'll have the environment lead you and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna shout out the podcast because I'm sure somebody might want to listen to it. So when I heard the director speak, I heard him speak on the Gamecast of the Kind of Funny podcast. So Kind of Funny is a podcast. They have a podcast called Gamecast, and it's under Spoiler Cast with the director. And one of the things he said was that like when you're looking at a HUD and you're looking at like the radar, you're not looking at the environment. You're just looking at like your radar and where you need to go. And so like it doesn't give you like it doesn't really help you like take in the scenery, take in everything. But if you're just following like the wind, you're most likely to look around and see like the colors of the flowers and like basically smell the flowers and take it all in basically. So I thought that was so I thought that was really interesting way of like putting it. Like if you're looking at the whole world as your directional clues, then you're more likely to take it all in as opposed to like a little circle and a dot. So I thought that was really interesting, and I thought that was really cool thing to do. So it's just I just think it failed at capturing that wonder of Breath of the Wild. I saw a review of like girlfriend reviews, and it was like, oh, where you going? Oh, I'm following this bird. Oh, where's that bird leading you to? Oh, he's showing me a headband. And you're like, oh, where you going? I'm going.
Yeah, I followed that bird whenever it popped up, dude.
Yeah,
I always followed it.
You're like, oh, where you going? Oh, I'm gonna go chase this bird. Oh, where's it leading you to? Oh, to a haiku. Oh, what did I give you? Oh, a headband.
Yeah, you get accessories from that shit essentially.
Right, but it just wasn't as compelling as like, even though I think Breath of the Wild, in my opinion, there was a lot of what are those? I forgot those rooms that they had, like their dungeons that they would show you. And a lot of it was just like, oh, I'm gonna go over this hill and here's a dungeon or something. But Breath of the Wild has so much like other like a meteor falls down and you go and there's something else there, or like the dragons in the sky. There was a lot more mystical things to be had and a lot of like wonder. But I think obviously Ghost that's rooted in reality can't be like, oh, come over here and then you're gonna see some crazy shit. Nah.
Yeah.
I think what it does in that sense is just, I like how it leads you to the places. I feel like it could have done better in terms of like maybe mixing some. Obviously, they got that from Breath of the Wild, but also Red Dead. Like Red Dead 2, like random things happen in like the game, and then like they're not all the same. Stuff like that. I think would have been really interesting and really cool to do. So hopefully the next game they can kind of do it, because I felt like after a while I was just like, okay, this is gonna lead me to this fucking fox is gonna lead me to a shrine. So like, what's the point? Yeah, so I thought they could have done better in that realm. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, I still follow it. They still got me, even though I don't enjoy it as much.
I think that's what I liked about it, is that those little things helped you explore, and they help. As I'm completing the platinum. Some platinums are very like tedious, and this one is essentially just explore the game. Go look at this, do that, collect this and stuff like that. And those collectathons in this game don't feel like a hassle. Like, you don't have to get everything in order to get the platinum. There's just there's specific things you need to get in order to get the platinum, and it helps you track it and all that stuff. And I've never felt overwhelmed, like, oh, I need to do this in order to find all of these things, because if not, I'm gonna lose it and I'm gonna forget about it. And like, I just like how straightforward the whole game was. And when it comes to the birds and stuff, yeah, at the end of it, you ended up getting some fucking shitty headband that you're not gonna wear, or or whatever, or other crap you're gonna get. But I just liked following it because it was just beautiful where it was taking me, and I liked seeing where I was gonna go, or wondering where I was gonna get to, because it was just such a nice game, and following it helped me explore. And on top of that, I liked how the fact that when you're in a mission, you could follow these birds anywhere, and your mission will still be waiting for you when you get back. And I think I really like that, because sometimes I feel some games kind of don't let you explore when you're in the mission, or if you go too far, mission failed or whatever. You're just kind of like, come on, man, like, let me discover, let me discover, let me explore what's going on. And I think this game lets you and allows you to explore things that sometimes in other games you couldn't. And you could even still do that mid mission. Like, I could mid mission go climb one of those shrines that give you the charms, and those take a while because you have to climb and do all these other shit. You could literally do that while you're in a mission, and some other games will never let you do that. It'll kind of cancel you out for you to do that.
Right. I mean, I think
I really enjoyed that.
I think at times it does block you out, obviously. I mean, I think if you're doing like a companion mission and you're walking away from...
Even when I was doing a companion mission, I was able to do those things. That's
really?
why I mentioned that. I think when you're doing something... Like
trailing somebody.
Not even. When I was trailing somebody, I did whatever I wanted. I ran into a fox, and I'm like, oh, fox! And I followed them, and then I went back.
There's a few times I did like a trailing mission where I had to follow the two brothers for Lady Makasel's mission. Lady Masako's mission. I had to follow two brothers in the Umi Cave or some shit. Umi Cove.
Oh yeah. But that one's more specific. You that one for sure. You were following those guys to Umi Cove. Yeah, you couldn't steer away from that, but so that was more specific. That was more like, oh, follow this guy to here. It was trailing. That was a different type of mission that if you couldn't veer away from that one. But in general, all the majority of the missions you could have done whatever you want, except maybe the final missions or whatever, where you had to go with your uncle to do certain stuff. But I think overall, in any mission, you could just go out and do whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean, the game does a great job of like allowing you to do things at your own pace. Even what I like games that don't punish you for like beating it too early or taking your time. It's definitely one where when you come towards the end and everybody's ready for you, you can talk to everybody, and you're like, hey man, sorry bro, sorry I forgot, we'll get back to your killer, or we'll help you, I'll help you out with this mission. And it's one of those things like other games would have been like, well, we're moving forward, so either you do it or you don't. This game definitely allowed you to take your time and do things how you want to see fit. So if a side companion didn't have a story that you didn't finish, don't worry, you can go back to it and finish it. So I thought that was really great.
It's funny because when I did mines, I had already finished. I did all the side missions before I went back and did story missions. So every time when I go to talk to them before something, it was always, well, we have to wait. After we do this, then we could go get him, Or at the end, it's like, oh, thank you for helping me out with this, Don't be like me, or whatever it is that they said to you at the end of the mission. They say to you again in the next one, when you see him again. So it's funny that yours is different because you didn't finish it.
Yeah. I rushed it just to do the spoiler cast, and then I went back and I did some side missions. I beat all the companion side missions. I just have a few left, like clean up basically.
What, the mystical ones?
Like the mystical ones, like a few side quests, and then I could just go and do all the fetching of the items. But I won't.
So you're gonna go for the plat?
No, I don't think so. I never do, so it's not my thing. Maybe, but
it's a pretty easy plat, man.
I don't see myself doing it. Like what for? But yeah, overall, like it's just one of the things we didn't talk about was the ending.
Oh man, yeah, the ending.
Yeah, dude. That's
what did you choose? What did you end up doing?
So I chose not to kill him, and I thought because at first, like I thought of it like an American traditional way of like, I'm not gonna kill my family member, no way. And then we had the conversation of like, nah, that's what you do in samurai culture, and by not doing it, you like dishonor him. Yeah.
And so when I was, because I stayed there kind of thinking about what to do. I'm just like, damn, I'm so conflicted, because in my head I was like you, like, oh man, I want to kill him. Like he was still my boy, He wanted me to be his son, and even though I did not like that, could be a great honor to be Lord Shimura's son or whatever, and get the inheritance and become the keeper of the islands or whatever. But I didn't like the fact that you were kind of, by doing that, you were essentially renouncing your Sakai name, and you are the last of the Sakai, and I feel like that is, I felt renouncing that was shittier than becoming this guy's son. I thought that was kind of like a stupid ideology, but what matters is becoming the top dog. But I think regardless, you would have still been the top dog, right? Because Shimura didn't have any heirs, so shouldn't be the next family member up? Shouldn't you become the top dog? I don't understand the samurai culture. Anyways, that's irrelevant to what we're talking about. But at the end, I chose to kill him because in my head, like I was telling you, in Japanese culture, dying with honor is the greatest thing you could ever do to somebody. And if I didn't kill him, he would essentially have been dishonored, because one, you let Sakai live, and by letting Jin live, you essentially failed at doing what the Shogun wanted you to do. And if you essentially failed at the beginning by losing your castle, you failed by not killing the Mongol invader yourself, your dishonored nephew did that, and on top of that, I told you to go kill him and you didn't. You're a failure at this point, and you're extremely dishonored because you couldn't do what was asked of you as the keeper of the island, as the governor, whatever you want to call him, of the island. So I felt like if I let him live, he's gonna be such a huge failure in the eyes of the Shogun, and he would have been dishonored, and he probably would have been forced to step down, or because he's not a capable leader. So I'm like, I might as well just kill him with honor and, take the blame. I'm already a dead man walking, and I'm a wanted person. So what's one more, What's one more crime essentially in the eyes of the Shogun? They want me dead regardless. So I was just like, I'm just gonna give my uncle honor, let him die with honor.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Like I said, I just didn't see it that way, just because I was thinking of it as American tradition. It's funny because the whole game doesn't have any choices, and at the end you're given that choice. It's like kind of like what you said. What are they gonna do if there's a part 2? But I feel like it's an easy fix. They could just, ask you what you chose in the beginning, and then write a small introduction of like, your uncle is homeless now, and he's in the gutter, or he died with honor.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I didn't like how they gave you a choice. I think it was just stupid. Because throughout the entire game, you don't get a choice, and now you're giving me a choice. Like, just tell me the story you want to tell me. I didn't like it.
Well, you're not given choices, but you are allowed to make some dialogue choices in the game. And like,
those dialogue choices are not really choices. They're just like, either do you want to find out about this, or you want to find out about that. So it's kind of like whatever you ask is what you end up finding out.
True, but then some of the choices are also like how Jin views things as well. Like, you can view things of like, I forgot, there's some choices of like, oh, did I do the right thing? You'd be like, nah, you didn't do the right thing. You should have done this. Or you could be like, yeah, you did the right thing. It was very, don't be so hard on yourself. And so,
yeah,
while they don't really have any ramifications in terms of like story and plot, they at least put you in that role of Jin Sakai and how you think. It's
yeah,
the game. It's a weird thing where we talk about especially like in Last of Us, where you think you have like agency over characters, but you don't. You're just like watching a story unfold. And then this Ghost of Tsushima, you kind of are the same way. Like, you don't have agency, but then you realize they give you moments of like, oh no, you are Jin Sakai. Of like, hey, what is Jin thinking right now? Like, how is he? What's his mindset like? And in those moments that you decide, that kind of speaks volume to like how you view the world as his character. And so at the end, to give you an actual decision, to make a physical decision, I guess it's like not that far of a stretch, because they've been giving you like baby steps of decisions. It's kind of like you're playing like, like cops and robbers, and at the end you're like, all right, let's go rob a real bank now. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get your point. It does make sense in that, but I felt like throughout the game they were giving me bullshit, and now they're giving me one of the biggest choices to make. I think if they were gonna give me a choice, I think it would have been better to give me a dialogue to have with my uncle, with whatever story beat you were gonna give me. Like, if there was a story beat of you wanting me to kill him, then give me the dialogue choices of how I should talk to him in this moment. Or if he was gonna, he was never gonna kill me, because I'm the ghost, and if you want a second part to this game, you're not gonna kill Jin. But what the choice essentially right now was either you let him live or you kill him, and I think they should have just given you. They should have given you the story they wanted. Like, if you wanted him to survive, or if you wanted the uncle to survive, or if you wanted to kill him, and just give me dialogue options and whatever one you chose, and I think that would have given more weight, because you're reacting to that moment with your uncle. And if you've been giving me dialogue options throughout the entire moment, I think that would have been a smarter choice, to give me dialogue options at that end moment of how I should talk to my uncle. But the fact that you give me the most massive choice of, hey, you could either kill him or let him live, and it's just like, Jesus, like, that's such a major and like game changing plot device choice to make. You know, I think it was just too big for the little things you were making me do. The little choices you were making me have.
I think it's definitely like a now let's throw you in the deep end kind of thing when you're like in the kiddie pool with these like baby ass dialogue choices that they were giving you.
Yeah, essentially.
I agree. I definitely could see your point of view in it, you know. But I like I said, it's one of those things where like for sure the game has a story to tell. And like I said, like the gameplay makes you play as a ghost no matter what. Like eventually you become the ghost. Like there's nothing you can do to not be the ghost. You are the ghost.
Yeah.
Even if you don't play. Even if
they spent the entire game forcing something to you.
Yeah. So, even if you don't play, like even if you play honorable, like Jin during cutscenes is gonna do the dishonorable thing.
Yeah.
So it is a game I think probably a little bit conflicted in identity of like, you know, am I Jin or is Jin, you know? But I don't know. I could see where you're coming from at it, and I could see where how you see it that way. I just think that maybe like they just want, you know, it does add. We're talking about it either way, negative or not, and that just gives you an input of how impactful that choice is. You know, I think if it wasn't there, it wouldn't be as impactful as a story narrative, as a plot device. So the fact that it's there, it literally is everybody's like talking point when they talk about the game. You know, like everyone who beats the game is gonna be like, "Oh, so what you do?" And this because this is the only moment you can decide something. That's what everyone is talking about. So I think in many ways they succeed at what they're trying to do, and in many ways they could have done it better.
No, for sure, yeah. I highly agree. There's in anything, there's always a way to do better. You know, like your uncle could have just been like, "Yeah, Jin, do what you gotta do, man. I'm gonna stand by your side, and I'm gonna help you give fear to the Mongols instead of being so rigid and be like, nah, you're fucking up. You can't do this way, you know." And it's funny because even in the story, I don't know, I don't remember who. I think it was Lady Masako who mentions that Jin's dad was just like Jin. He was more open-minded, and Shimura was more of just like, no, we have to do things this way, and we have to be, you know, linear in what we do. And Sakai's dad was more like, oh, let's explore different things. Let's try to do things differently. You know, let's be more open-minded and allow things to evolve. And it's funny to see that happen again. You know, how Jin was just the way like his dad was, and I think that's why I felt the fact that the idea of Jin becoming Shimura's dad, Shimura's son, was just so like being adopted by Shimura was so dumb, because you were the last of the Sakai and you're just like your dad, and the fact that you wanted to do that, I think it was just kind of dumb. Yeah,
I understand the confliction, especially when basically like your dad dies young, and then you don't have a family really. Like you're left on like the wasteland, and then this guy comes and he takes you under his wing and promises you like, hey, I'm gonna treat you like my son and stuff like that. Like it's daddy issues 101, dude. Like that's basically what happened. Like he longed for his dad and couldn't find him, so he gravitated towards his uncle, and I think that's why he has such a hard time even becoming a ghost in the beginning, because like he's remembering his uncle's teachings of like, we have to be honorable, we have to be samurai, and we can't, you know, kill our enemies in the back and stuff like that. And so you see that take a toll on him, because that is his dad regardless of paper, you know.
Yeah.
So I think as in terms of a plot, I think it makes sense of like, you have a lot of regret for not being there to protect your dad when he died, and not being able to like save him. And that just goes into why you become the ghost. That adds into that of like, well, I can't do this, but I need to do what I need to do to save my family, save my people, because I couldn't do that when I was younger, when we had bandits invading.
Mm-hmm.
But also you have that that confliction of like, I want to be a better like warrior for my people, but I also want to make the person who I look up to as my father figure now currently, I want him to respect me and follow his traditions. So I think it makes a lot of sense of like why he was okay with like becoming part of that clan and becoming like his son. I think it makes perfect sense. I just think he realized that like the title of your son is less important right now than the people of Tsushima.
Yeah.
So I think that's where like the conflict comes about.
Yeah. Essentially, yeah. But yeah, man, it's just probably one of those story beats that I didn't really enjoy, and I wish when I was hoping him to, when he got disowned by his uncle. And he's like, you have to choose what you want to be. And he says, I am the ghost or whatever. I wish he would have been said, I am Jin Sakai. Okay, I wish he would have said, I'm Sakai. I'm not Shimura. It's like, yeah, say no to your uncle's last name. Because you're a Sakai, buddy. And the Sakai armor is better looking than the Shimura one anyways. So I was hoping him to say some shit like that,
Yeah, it's definitely it's just such a good game, dude. Overall, like I don't know how this year is gonna play out, but so far, my game of the year.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know about game of the year because I still have to play Cyberpunk whenever that comes out. But let's say Cyberpunk gets pushed back. Yeah, man, I think I will personally choose this game over Last of Us.
Yeah. Like I said, objectively speaking, I think Last of Us is game of the year.
Way better game. It's flawless. It's beautiful, the gameplay. For me, the whole thing of playing as Abby just kind of destroyed the game kind of for me. I did not care at all for Abby. Even at the end. I'm just like, oh my god, I just want this thing to end already. Like I can't, I hate this. Like I bought this game to play Ellie and do all these things, and I didn't care about Abby. Like I don't want you to force me to feel anything for her. Like I didn't care. I thought it was tacked on. But this game overall, Ghost of Tsushima, playing it was very fun. I didn't feel. I never felt like it lagged on. And I felt that way with The Last of Us. I felt like, man, this is too long. When is this gonna end? Oh man, is there more stuff now? Oh fine, it's over. I'm in a nice farm with my wife and we got a baby. Oh shit, wait, I gotta go back out again? And it was just kinda like, oh my god, it kept going, when you thought it was gonna end, it just kept going with The Last of Us.
Yeah, it could be also that Last of Us was like a very linear experience and a lot of story unfolded in The Last of Us, like a lot of like dialogue.
And I don't mind that.
And disposition.
That's what I love about The Last of Us. I love The Last of Us, how it's telling you a story. I love how it's from point A to point B, and here's our story, and you're playing this game because you want to find out what's happening to these characters. But I just felt like it was just too long. Like it just kept going. And what I liked about, Ghost, it was just explore the world, take in the beauty, fuck people up, and it was very gamey. It was very like a gamey game, and I really enjoyed all that. And the story wasn't bad. It was cookie cutter game, but cookie cutter story, like very straightforward. But I was entertained enough that I wanted to see what happens, and and continue. Even the side quests, like I told you, like the side quests were a great story, and I wanted to keep playing to see what happened to these characters or how the story ended. So I never felt like I needed to I needed to keep going to finish it. I wanted to keep going, and I wanted to keep playing, and just keep being in the world, you know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. It is. Yeah, it's my game of the year, dude. So we'll see how it all plans out when Cyberpunk comes. I think that's like the last biggest release of the year. Obviously,
yeah, it's November something.
Obviously,
November
Miles Morales comes out as well for the PS5. But if it comes out,
yeah.
if it comes out on PS4, maybe I'll pick it up, and that also could be up there for my game of the year. So we'll see what happens down the road. But anything else to say about Ghost?
No, man, it's a great game. People should play it if they have a PS4. They should let themselves pick it up for cheap if you want to, if you don't want to spend the money. But you're not gonna regret playing this game. It's a great game. It's fun. It's beautiful. And I think people should give it a chance, because I don't think a lot of people, even though it's a fast selling game, I think a lot of people still have an idea that it was gonna be shit, and it's not a shit game.
Yeah, and definitely
really
I think it's the multiplayer is gonna add some legs onto this. So if you were thinking that once you beat the story, there's nothing else, there's a multiplayer coming this fall. So
and if the multiplayer is as kinetic with the sword, like the sword switching and all that stuff, it's gonna be fun. Yeah. Like, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be a challenge, and I think that's gonna be one of the things.
Yeah, I think I think if they do add a pretty good multiplayer component, this game could last for like the next year or two, in terms of just
even to the PlayStation 5. I think it could even go into the PlayStation 5 and become its own thing too.
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
Let me ask you a question before we wrap this up. What do you prefer? Do you prefer Ghost or Days Gone? Because these are the two kind of like two games that are not really A-lister, PlayStation exclusives. They're more people hate them both, so, or think they're shit. So
I don't think so. I think Ghost has high praise.
Oh yeah, for sure. But there's still a lot of people who won't give it a chance. Just like Days Gone, not a lot of people gave it a chance.
Nah, I think
it sold well, but it didn't. People still.
I think
give it the game.
I think if you look at Ghost, compared to Last of Us, Ghost is
user rating is way higher.
User rating is way higher. Metacritic rating is way higher. Like, it's not even like comparative. I think Ghost is up there. Like, I think a good comparison of Ghost is Horizon. Like, Ghost has a 92 on Metacritic on user rating. That is the highest, like one of the highest user rated games ever. Because people suck and people usually, give bad reviews to everything. So, it's not even compared. Like, if you want to compare those kind of games, I think it's more like for example, on Metacritic, Last of Us Part 2, which I think is like a masterpiece, has a 5.6.
Well, that was user bombed.
Right.
That was rating bombed. So that shit doesn't count anymore.
Okay, Horizon Zero Dawn, one of the best PS4 games, obviously. 8.4. User-wise, like critically, I feel that, and for example, Horizon has I think like 9,000 around that price, like ratings from users. Ghost has 16,000. So with double the users, it has a higher. So yeah, like, it's not even compared. Like, Ghost is objectively the better game. I think Ghost is up there with the top 5. Days Gone is a great PS4 game, a good PS4 game. It's at the bottom of like top 10 maybe. I really like Days Gone, but there's a lot of problems with that game, and if you told me if you didn't like it, I'd be like, I get it.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of fun with Days Gone. A shit ton of fun with Days Gone. I would say
that game will run so much better on the PS5.
I think fun factor. I think Ghost is more fun, but I think Days Gone is also is like right there in terms of just being very fun. But there's just so many other problems with like Days Gone, like technical problems, story problems. Like there's just a gambit of problems. So I don't think it's a worthy comparison, but I do think I think Ghost is up there for like the top 5 games of the PS4. It's like Last of Us Part 2, God of War, Spider-Man, Horizon, and Ghost. I don't know how you rank them, but that's literally
top 5 essentially.
The top 5 in my head.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, man. That's all I have to say.
All right, guys. So that
Go
ends
get it.
our Ghost review. I wanted us to write haikus, but we couldn't do that. We couldn't think of any haikus, and I didn't know it. It was like a symbol with the syllables.
All right, I'm a freestyle one. You ready?
Okay.
This game is great. Yo. Lovely scenery. Beautiful sword fighting. You should definitely get this.
I don't think that's right.
Bitch.
I don't think that's right, but you guys let us know. All right, and that ends our podcast. Thank you guys for listening. Stay tuned. We're gonna review Bill and Ted Excellent Adventure possibly next week. And if you guys want to leave us comments or any of that, you could do that. You could do so on Instagram or on Facebook, and let us know what you thought about Ghost. Did you like it? Is it your game of the year? Is it better than Last of Us Part 2? So we'll see you guys for another episode of Popcorn Heroes.
Later. Deuces.